Hello and welcome. My name's Steve Beckles-Ebusua, the speaker with the orange tie. This is the other time my son got me. Thank you very much indeed, son. And guys, welcome to the Orange Room. Those that don't know anything about me, I'm a motivational speaker. I go to schools, colleges, universities and companies around the UK, Europe and in the States. Now obviously that's changed, and with that change obviously my situation in myself has changed. Now I'm still working, still doing a lot of stuff, a lot of Zoom work. In fact, I'm going to a school next week. It's Duke's secondary school. Really looking forward to meeting up with Natalie Kane, who's the teacher there. But I've decided to move on in myself and develop myself. I've said before, but Dr. Wayne Dyer says, for things to change, you must change. And I think for myself, I thought, you know what, I love what I'm doing. I'm still speaking, by the way. So a lot of people have said to me, oh, are you giving up speaking? Not at all. I mean, I've got that motivation, inspirational thing in my blood that will never go. However, it's about developing myself. And I've developed myself in becoming and training to become a Cognitive Behavioural Therapist. Now, I started last year. It's hard work, I will say that now. However, the journey is so rewarding and I'm learning so much. And what I've done this year, this is the fourth session or fourth episode. I'm going to be giving you parts of what I've learned in that week. Now, there is so much that I'm learning and reading about, and I think what I've been doing before has been great, and I think it's been inspirational and I've loved it. But here, I'm actually going to be giving you tips and techniques around cognitive behavioural therapy, CBT, and that's really what I'm training to be. So what I'm going to be doing is giving you the ideas on how to become a person that can really overcome the challenges. So let me explain what CBT is. First of all, CBT it starts with your thoughts, then your feelings, and then your actions. They're the three things that CBT surrounds itself around. So in other words, your thoughts will affect your feelings will affect your behaviour. Here's an example. You burn the dinner, all right? Your thoughts are, oh gosh, I'm useless. You then have the feeling of being useless. You then have a behaviour where you might snap at your child or snap at your partner or slam the phone down with someone you were speaking to, and it all started from your thoughts, that dinner being burned. Does that make sense? So thoughts, feelings and behaviours. That is what CBT is. Now, for all of you know that, seen me speak around the world, and Daryl, and great to see you guys. I've just had an amazing time, and I've talked a lot about belief systems and all the rest of it, unwittingly, really, knowing that I was talking about CBT. So to qualify as a therapist, I'm just so excited about. Why? Because I'm just doing something which is my passion. So I started all of these off in March of last year. Can you believe it? Of last year. It's nearly a full year. I'm 1 month away, a full year. And I just started off doing like motivational stuff. I just thought it'd be a great idea because of the lockdown. And now it's developed into something which I really believe I can add value to. So really that's what these are all about. Now this is the fourth session. If you haven't seen the other three, guys, just go on to YouTube, type in Orange Online Learning, and all the videos, and not just these videos, but the videos I've done before, be all on there. So it's like a learning episode. So it's going to be fun, and the whole idea is for you to come away and think, do you know what? I've learned something I didn't know before and I'm going to take action on. Okay, what have I spoken about? I spoke about internal locus of control. That's the first episode. Now what that is realizing that you can only control what actually happens in here. Yeah. Externally, whether you're in the States, in the UK, all the stuff that's going on with the lockdown and the coronavirus, you can't control that. You can only control what's inside you. So I spoke about the importance of understanding your internal locus of control. The next week I started talking about empathy and the different types of empathies that are around, and how you can use those different styles to engage with people, looking at the way you say what you say, and really being aware of your awareness. That I did in the second week. And I spoke about listening, the three forms of listening and how we listen, and different forms of listening. Like I said, guys, they're all on the YouTube, Orange Online Learning. You can watch all of those videos. So guys, let's get this show on the road. Now, as you know, I always have my strap line, and the strap line, as you can see, I've got some conditioning here. My strap line is, how is your life being conditioned? It's all about psychology. Now, this is conditioner, And this is not the conditioner I'm referring to, yeah? Yes, I use this so you have a nice fresh smell of your clothes, but it's not that condition I'm talking about. But I used it as a prop. So let me put this aside. And I'm going to talk about 3 forms of conditioning, but I'm going to focus on one. There's 3 forms of conditioning. There's classical conditioning, yeah? And I'll give you the kind of definition of that as well. There's operant conditioning, okay? And then there's behavioural conditioning, okay? So conditioning. Those 3 are conditioners that we're all surrounded by every day, and we often don't know what they are and how they are. But what I'm going to do, I'm just going to talk about, in this particular session, because there's so much to cover, just going to talk about classical conditioning. So let me go back in time a little bit to 1849, where a man by the name of Ivan Pavlov was born in Russia. And you might have heard about the Pavlov and the ringing of the bell, but I'm going to kind of roughly go through it for those that are unaware of it. So basically, he was a psychologist. He was going to be a priest like his father, but he decided not to. He studied medicine, and he became someone that studied the digestive systems, not of human beings, but of dogs. Okay? And just by chance, when he was getting food ready in order to feed them, in order to study their stomachs and how their stomachs were, etc., he noticed that they started to salivate. Yeah, so the minute the dog saw the food, the dog started to salivate. And he thought, this is interesting, because the dogs are just seeing the food. Yeah. Now, the smell of the food is called unconditional stimuli. So the smell is just there. Yeah. Your reaction, or the dog's reaction, is a natural response. So how many times maybe your partner or a friend's cooking and you smell the food? That's a natural response. Why? Because you can smell the food. And the food is an unconditioned stimuli. The food is just there. Okay? Now, what he decided to do, and I'm going to use this clock as the example, is when he got the food ready for the dogs, the minute he gave the food to the dogs, he rung the bell at the same time. Okay? So he did it over and over again, till eventually the sound of the bell, which is called a neutral stimuli. So in other words, before the dogs were given the food or whatever, the bell didn't mean anything to them. However, he introduced this whilst you fed them. As it went off, it then linked the 2 together. So the bell and the food linked together. This is called acquisition. The process of the bell and the food coming together. Now, once that has settled, that actual form is called conditional stimuli. And that's what I spoke about. I asked a question, finding out about what conditional stimuli is. In other words, you are activated by seeing something. Not necessarily the thing you want, but it's connected with something. Does that make sense? Let me give an example. Before March 2020, it's a face mask, by the way, not knickers, right? This face mask, orange, obviously orange, didn't really mean anything to anyone, really, if you know what I mean. It was a neutral stimuli, okay? But then as we went through March, April, May, I think it might have been in June, where Boris said that wearing a mask was then compulsory. Check this out. It became compulsory. So we had to wear the mask. Why? Because the mask represents the coronavirus, the disease, the lockdown, the virus, everything connected with it. So in other words, this before March was just a neutral stimuli. It didn't mean anything, just a mask. However, as time went on, this then became linked with having to wear this whenever you go into a shop, whenever you go around to perhaps friends, etc., etc. So this mask in itself has become a stimuli, a conditioned stimuli. Because a lot of you, when you see this, you think, it's that mask thing again. Do you see what I mean? I remember when I was younger, when my dad used to come in from work, every Friday he would bring chips. And me and Kevin, my brother, was talking about this the other day. And when we hear the keys in the door, me and my brother would go rushing to the front door. Why? Because my dad would always have Savoy and chips, I always remember it, underneath his arm with his umbrella if it was raining or whatever, and that would be the condition. Do you see what I mean? It was a conditioned stimuli. So I hope I've made that clear. Now, the reason I'm talking about this is that we have triggers. And these triggers are what fire off the way we feel and then the way we act. Remember I said earlier about how cognitive behavioural therapy is about the way you think, the way you feel and the way you act. I read something that's important. If you spoke to your friends the way you speak to yourself, you would have no friends. Because we give ourselves a really hard time. And I want you to realise that your thoughts are linked with your feelings and linked with your behaviours. Now, you see this, you have an instant thought. It links with a feeling, oh God, it's the mask, it's the lockdown, isn't it? And your behaviours might, oh, here we go. And that has now become a conditioned stimuli. So now, I'm now going to start talking about what are the things that are triggering you. Now, this style that I'm referring to is called a behaviourist. So Ivan Pavlov is called a behaviourist. Now, a behaviourist believes that everything is learned through the interaction through the environment. Okay, so what they're saying is your learning is all through the environment. They don't believe in all of this kind of, subconscious thinking and in the mind. They don't believe in that. They're Freudians. Yeah, Freudians are the ones that think about, and I think I might be a Freud. No, not think, I know. Because I'm very strong talking about your subconscious and your power of your subconscious. So studying this is fascinating because now I'm being able to dichotomize my style of delivery. I do believe in behaviorism, I do, because we are influenced by the environment. But I think deep down inside, I'm a Freudian. Guys, how many times have you heard people talk about a Freudian slip? Let's see if you understand what that means. Mary is married to a gentleman by the name of David. Mary's talking to her friend about David. Now, she used to have an ex-boyfriend called Peter. As she's talking to her friend, she says, you know what? I really love Peter. Freudian slip. And what that's about is that Freud would say is that deep down inside your subconscious, you're thinking about Peter. Can you see? Now, these were often very controversial points of views. I mean, B.F. Skinner was a behaviourist. He didn't believe in all of that fluffy kind of beliefs and all that kind of stuff. And Freudians, you know, a lot of his stuff was linked with sex and all of it. So for me, I'm learning a lot about how people learn. And I'm finding out what works for me. Now, let's try to get this now to fit for you. As I said, I want us to start talking about the triggers. What are the things that are triggering you? Now, in order to do this, whenever you do any form of CBT, and as I said, I'm trained to become a CBT, the CBT therapist will give you homework. All right. Now, part of my coursework was to put together a plan. Now, this actually came from a lady called Barbara Heffernan, Dr. Barbara Heffernan. Amazing stuff. Check this out. Now, what I'd like you to do is to get a sheet of paper. Okay. Now, I'm obviously being recorded, so you can obviously do this later, but a sheet of paper, okay? Now, on this sheet of paper, I want you to draw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines, okay? 5 lines going down, yeah? I then, in each column, as follows, please watch this, really important. In column number 1, I want to write situation, column 1, okay? In column number 2, I want to write feelings, emotional and physical. That's in column number 2. Right. Column number 3, I want you to write down unhelpful thoughts and behaviours. That's in column number 3. Column number 4, write down alternative thoughts. Yeah, so right along here, alternative thoughts. Column number 5, write down alternatives behaviours. That's column 5. And finally, the last column, write down feeling after alternative thoughts and behaviours. All right. Now, what I'm doing with you is a typical therapist homework given to a client. Okay, so this is very, very typical of homework a therapist would give to a client that is suffering from negative thoughts, constant negative thoughts. Now, let me explain now how it works. So you've got your sheet of paper, you've now got your headings, okay? Now, this is what you're going to do. For column number 1, it's got situation. What I want you to do, you write down what happened. All right? Write down what happened. What was the situation? Okay, so someone might have spoken to you in a rude way. All right, there we go. That's column number 1. Okay, in column number 2, I want to write down the feelings from 0 to 10, how you felt when that was said to you. 1 being least affecting you, 10 being most offended and kind of really affected by those comments. Okay, column number 3. Write down the thoughts you had and the behaviour you felt when those feelings or when that person said what they said in column number 1. Does that make sense? So if someone said to you, oh, you're just useless at what you do, all right? I want you when you get back to wherever you are, your sheet of paper, is to write down how you felt about that person saying that, right? So what are the unhelpful thoughts you had, okay? In the next column, which is column number 4, write down alternative thoughts to what that person says. So let's give an example. The person said to you, do you know what? You're useless at what you do, and you know, you just need to be doing another job. You're no good at it. Okay? That's what they said. The next thing you'll do, you write down how you felt from 0 to 10. You'll probably say absolutely terrible. So you might even say 12, I don't know, but you'd say 10, okay? The next thing you do, what were the unhelpful thoughts that you had at that time? You might have felt yourself, you're empty, you're not worth anything, you're useless, you're just a waste of space because of those comments. Like I said, number 4, alternative thoughts. What alternative thoughts and feelings could you have to that person saying that? So we're just doing the thoughts. What alternative? So you might think to yourself, do you know what? That's rubbish. Because I know I'm good at what I do. Because that's why I've got the job. I made a mistake. But I'm not rubbish. Right? So that might have been a thought. Column number 5. What alternative behaviour? So in column number 3, you put in your feelings and your behaviours. You might have felt very down, go to your room, lied in your bed all day because you kept thinking about it. In column number 5, what alternative behaviour could you introduce with those thoughts, with what that person said to you? So it might be maybe ring someone that you could have a quick chat with. It might be listen to your favourite music. What alternative behaviour could you do? Then finally, guys, number 6, the feelings and alternative thoughts. Compare them with how your feelings were in column 2. Does that make sense? So now you're going to compare, once you've gone through this, your feelings now you've gone through it all, to how you are now compared to how you felt in column 2. This is a typical CBT work example, and that's why obviously I'm doing this with you at the moment. But these are very powerful because the thing about CBT is that the homework is for you to take action with. Because if you don't, it's not going to work. And it's really, really important that you do give this not just a try, but just say to yourself, yeah, do you know what? It's going to work. Because again, a lot of this is in your mind, Freudian. Yeah, where maybe I'd say Skinner will say, no, it's not in the mind, it's all about behaviour. So can you see, even with my words, a lot of this is linked with how I am as a person, a bit Freudian, a bit behaviourist, yeah? So that exercise is a typical exercise. I would like you to try it. I do believe it's about you, your thoughts, your feelings, behaviour, and it's about you trying to change how you can do this. And I really appreciate the comments coming through as well. So by all means, give those a try. I want to also just talk very quickly about identifying your triggers. Because once you know your trigger, in other words, that thing that makes you go, you've got a chance, haven't you? So I'm going to try and help you do this. Now, this is a true story. Now, I'm just about at the right weight now, but there was a point where I was a little bit overweight. Must have been in my early 20s. And I'll never forget, I went jogging. I was around my mum's for a while, and I came back and I was sweating. I felt so proud of myself. And my mum's looked at me and she said, "Why, you look like you put on weight, eh?" So my mum was referring to me actually putting on weight. Can you imagine how I felt? My thoughts were, oh my gosh, I've put on weight after all that. My feelings were, oh, what is the point of jogging? My behaviour, true story, I absolutely felt like it wasn't worth me going jogging, just solely because of that trigger. That was the trigger. And my mum, love her, she's no longer with us, love her to bits, but it hit me. That was a trigger. What I want you to start thinking about, and you know your triggers, you probably know the people you hang around that say certain things and then they'll just trigger you. And what happens? It becomes a thought, becomes a feeling, becomes a behaviour. I want you now, in a calm state we're in, not around those particular people that trigger you, is to write down what are you going to do if they do maybe say something or maybe behave in a certain way. In other words, try to work out how to control your reaction to your triggers. Listen, they're always going to say what they say. But the reality is, how are you going to deal with those triggers? They're going to happen. If not from my mum, it'll be maybe from someone else. They say, oh, mate, I thought you were on a diet, mate. That's enough to send you down. So, plan it. Write down. I'm working with a client. In fact, off the back of this, which I feel very blessed, I've got a new client that's going to be working with me, and I'm starting to use these CBT techniques. And I've actually said to him, I want you to write down the comments. So he's with a partner at the moment, and that partner is just very negative. And I want you to write down when that partner, because he knows off by heart what she always says, to write down how you're going to react to when that person says, for example, he's out of work at the moment, really struggling because of the lockdown, so I haven't even mentioned it. Yeah? And he says, Steve, it really pulls me down when she starts talking about it. So I said, look, write down how you're going to react with it from now on. And he wrote down, and in his head, he literally tried to remember next time she says, when you're going to get a job, his response was, I'm looking and I know I'm going to get the job I want. And I know I'm going to get the one I want and do what I really want to do in my life, because it's not about getting any jobs, it's about getting the job I love. And he says, Steve, I had it in my head so well that when it came out, she was like, whoa. So you can see how you can prepare yourself for those triggers, because they're out there and they come in different forms, different guises, but they are out there. Okay? Boom, we're there. So, a lot to take in, I know, but what I want you to be able to do is realise is that everything is in stages. And when you look at cognitive behavioural therapy, it's about looking at your thoughts. What are the thoughts are you having? How are they affecting your feelings? And how are they affecting your behaviour? I read this great quote about 2 or 3 weeks ago, is that motion is the precursor of emotions. Let me say that again. Motion is the precursor of emotion. And what that actually means is, rather than kind of hesitate about doing what you need to do, just do it. It's like that Nike strap. Just do it. Because then your emotions have to deal with you taking action. Do you see what I mean? If you leave it to your mind to work out, I'm not sure about this technique, I don't know if it's going to work, you're never going to do it. All right, you have 50,000 thoughts in a day on average. You won't do it. So this is where Nike says, just do it. Just do this. Set this up and then give it a try. Because it's all about making a difference by taking action. You've heard me say already, the best thing to do is the right thing. Next thing to do is the wrong thing. But the worst thing to do is absolutely nothing. Now, I've got some thank yous I want to give out, because I'm really, really appreciating the support I've been having since I have been starting these psychological kind of sessions. And this is session number 4. Big shout out to Yvonne Dempster. Big shout out to Trudy Lander. Thank you. Jane Lazarus. Jackie Ledgers, thank you so much for the comments about my session last week. Really appreciate it. And Kiz Salsa Lloyd, thank you again for your comments. Also, some references, guys. If you write this down, Dr. Judy Ho, Judy Ho, H-O. She is really big into core beliefs. Just Google her. She's got a great, not just website, but I think she's got these kind of podcasts she does, which is absolutely amazing. You heard me talk about the other lady before, and her name's Dr. Barbara Heffernan. That's where I got these from. Guys, what I'm trying to do is just give you loads of information, and I'm hoping with them you're able to not just, I suppose, use them to just help yourself, but also help others. Because once you're in a fit state of mind, that's when things can change for other people. Boom, we're there. Guys, thank you so much. I hope you have enjoyed it. I'm enjoying my journey, and I'm really enjoying sharing this with you. Another final shout, actually, OSSR. I'm not on this week, but Andrea Stewart, Welshire, is on there with Neelam from 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock on Sunday morning. They're great. Great Sunday morning wake up, great music, etc., etc. Listen in, just listening to OSSR. They're doing some amazing stuff, great community, and it's all about making a difference. So guys, just to finish up, like I always say, it's not about us getting through this situation. And as I said, I haven't noticed, I haven't mentioned it, because there's no point talking about it anymore. That's that external locus of control. The lockdown, all that, it's out there. And there's no point in dredging it up and talking about it. We've got to deal with what we've got. So it's not about getting through this, it's about getting from it. Guys, thank you again so much, and just have an amazing weekend. Take care. See you later.